I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now. Question 45.1. Questioner, could you give us an estimate of the instrument's physical condition now that she is rested? Answer, I am Ra. This instrument's condition as regards the bodily complex is extremely poor. This instrument is not rested. However, this instrument was eager for our contact. Question 45.2. Questioner, did the period of abstinence from contact help the instrument's physical condition? Answer, I am Ra. This is correct. The probability of this instrument's development of what you would call disease either of the pulmonary nature or the renal nature was quite significant at our previous contact. You have averted a possible serious physical malfunction of this instrument's bodily complex. It is to be noted that your prayerful support was helpful, as was this instrument's unflagging determination to accept that which was best in the long run and thus maintain the exercises recommended without undue impatience. It is to be further noted that those things which aid this instrument are in some ways contradictory and require balance. Thus this instrument is aided by rest but also by diversions of an active nature. This makes it more difficult to aid this instrument. However, once this is known, the balancing may be more easily accomplished. Question 45.3. Questioner, can you tell me if a large percentage of the wanderers here now are those of Ra? Answer, I am Ra. I can. Question 45.4. Questioner, are they? Answer, I am Ra. A significant portion of sixth density wanderers are those of our social memory complex. Another large portion consists of those who aided those in South America, another portion, those aiding Atlantis. All are sixth density and all brother and sister groups due to the unified feeling that as we had been aided by shapes such as the pyramid, so we could aid your peoples. Question 45.5. Questioner, can you say if any of the three of us are of Ra or any of the other groups? Answer, I am Ra. Yes. Question 45.6. Questioner, can you say which of us are of which group? Answer, I am Ra. No. Question 45.7. Questioner, are all of us of one of the groups that you mentioned? Answer, I am Ra. We shall go to the limits of our attempts to refrain from infringement. 2 are a sixth density origin, 1 a fifth density harvestable to sixth but choosing to return as a wanderer due to a loving association between teacher and student. Thus you three form a greatly cohesive group. Question 45.8. Questioner, can you explain the right and left ear tone and what I call touch contact that I continually get? Answer, I am Ra. This has been covered previously. Please ask for specific further details. Question 45.9. Questioner, I get what I consider to be tickling in my right and my left ear at different times. Is this any different as far as meaning goes from the tone that I get in my right and left ear? Answer, I am Ra. No. Question 45.10. Questioner, why is the left ear of the service to self-contact and the right service to others? Answer, I am Ra. The nature of your physical vehicle is that there is a magnetic field, positive and negative, in complex patterns about the shells of your vehicle. The left portion of the head region of most entities is, upon the time-space continuum level, of a negative polarity. Question 45.11. Questioner, can you tell me what is the purpose or philosophy behind the fourth, fifth and sixth density positive and negative social memory complexes? Answer, I am Ra. The basic purpose of a social memory complex is that of evolution. Beyond a certain point the evolution of spirit is quite dependent upon the understanding of self and other self as creator. This constitutes the basis for social complexes. When brought to maturity, they become social memory complexes. The fourth density and sixth density find these quite necessary. The fifth positive use is social memory and attaining wisdom, though this is done individually. In fifth negative, much is done without aid of others. This is the last query, as this instrument needs to be protected from depletion. Are there brief queries before we close? Question 45.12. Questioner: I just need to know if there is anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact. Answer: I am Ra. All is well, my brothers. Loud rapping at the door. Water truckers. Question 45.13. Questioner: What did you say? Answer: I am Ra. All is well, my brothers. I leave you now in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, then, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We communicate now. Question 46.1. Questioner: The one question that is bothering us, which I got in meditation, may be an inappropriate question, but I feel it is my duty to ask it because it is central to the instrument's mental condition and ours. It has to do with the two cats which we were going to have worked upon today for teeth cleaning and for the removal of the small growth from Gandalf's leg. I got the impression that there might be an inroad there for the Orion group, and I was primarily concerned if there was anything that we could do for protection for these two cats. It may be out of line for me to ask this question, but I feel it my duty to ask it. Would you please give me any information that you can on that subject? Answer: I am Ra. The entity, mind, body, spirit complex, Gandalf, being harvestable third density, is open to the same type of psychic attack to which you yourselves are vulnerable. Therefore, through the mechanism of images and dreams, it is potentially possible for negative concepts to be offered to this mind, body, spirit complex, thus having possible deleterious results. The entity, Feyerchild, though harvestable through investment, does not have the vulnerability to attack in as great amount due to a lack of the mind complex activity in the distortion of conscious devotion. For protection of these entities we might indicate two possibilities. Firstly, the meditation putting on the armor of light. Secondly, a repetition of short ritual sentences known to this instrument from the establishment which distorts spiritual oneness for this instrument. This instrument's knowledge will suffice. This would aid you to the alerting of many discarnate entities also aware of these ritual sentences. The meditation is appropriate at the time of the activity on behalf of these entities. The ritual may be repeated with efficacy from this time until the safe return, at convenient intervals. Question 46.2. Questioner: I am not familiar with the ritual sentences. If the instrument is familiar, you need not answer this, but which sentences do you mean? Ra. Silence. No response from Ra. Question 46.3. Questioner: I assume that the instrument is familiar with them then? Answer: I am Ra. This is correct. Question 46.4. Questioner: Can you tell me something of the little growth on Gandalf's leg and if it is of danger to him? Answer: I am Ra. The cause of such growths has been previously discussed. The danger to the physical body complex is slight given the lack of repeated stimulus to anger. Question 46.5. Questioner: If an entity polarizes toward the service to self path, would anger have the same physical effect that it would have on the entity polarizing on the service to others path? Would it also cause cancer, or is it just a catalytic effect working in the positively polarizing entity? Answer: I am Ra. The catalytic mechanisms are dependent, not upon the chosen polarity of the mind, body, spirit complex, but upon the use or purpose to which this catalyst is put. Thus the entity which uses the experience of anger to polarize consciously positively or negatively does not experience the bodily catalyst but rather uses the catalyst in mental configuration. Question 46.6. Questioner: I am not sure that I understand that. Let's take some examples. An entity polarizing toward the negative path becomes angry. Let's take the condition where he develops a cancer. What is the principle that is at work for him? Answer: I am Ra. We see the thrust of your query and will respond at variance with the specific query if that meets with your approval. Question 46.7. Questioner: Certainly. Ra, the entity polarizing positively, perceives the anger. This entity, if using this catalyst mentally, blesses and loves this anger in itself. It then intensifies this anger consciously and mind alone until the folly of this red ray energy is perceived not as folly in itself but as energy subject to spiritual entropy due to the randomness of energy being used. Positive orientation then provides the will and faith to continue this mentally intense experience of letting the anger be understood, accepted, and integrated with the mind-body-spirit complex. The other self, which is the object of anger, is thus transformed into an object of acceptance, understanding, and accommodation, all being reintegrated using the great energy which anger began. The negatively oriented mind, body, spirit complex will use this anger in a similarly conscious fashion, refusing to accept the undirected or random energy of anger, and instead, through will and faith, funneling this energy into a practical means of venting the negative aspect of this emotion so as to obtain control over other self, or otherwise control the situation causing anger. Control is the key to negatively polarized use of catalyst. Acceptance is the key to positively polarized use of catalyst. Between these polarities lies the potential for this random and undirected energy creating a bodily complex analog of what you call the cancerous growth of tissue. Question 46.8. Questioner: Then as I understand it, you are saying that if the positively polarizing entity fails to accept the other self, or if the negatively polarizing entity fails to control the other self, either of these conditions will cause cancer, possibly. Is this correct? Answer: I am Ra. This is partially correct. The first, acceptance, or control depending upon polarity, is of the self. Anger is one of many things to be accepted and loved as a part of self or controlled as a part of self if the entity is to do work. Question 46.9. Questioner: Then are you saying that if a negatively polarizing entity is unable to control his own anger or unable to control himself in anger that he may cause cancer? Is this correct? Answer: I am Ra. This is quite correct. The negative polarization contains a great requirement for control and repression. Question 46.10. Questioner: A repression of what? Answer: I am Ra. Any mind complex distortion which you may call emotional, which is of itself disorganized, needs, in order to be useful to the negatively oriented entity, to be repressed and then brought to the surface in an organized use. Thus you may find, for instance, negatively polarized entities controlling and repressing such basic bodily complex needs as the sexual desire in order that in the practice thereof the will may be used to enforce itself upon the other self with greater efficiency when the sexual behavior is allowed. Question 46.11. Questioner: Then the positively oriented entity, rather than attempting repression of emotion, would balance the emotion as stated in an earlier contact. Is this correct? Answer: I am Ra. This is correct and illustrates the path of unity. Question 46.12. Questioner: Then cancer is a training catalyst operating for both polarities in approximately the same way but creating or attempting to create polarization in both directions, positive and negative, depending upon the orientation of the entity experiencing the catalyst. Is this correct? Answer: I am Ra. This is incorrect in that catalyst is unconscious and does not work with intelligence but rather is part of the, shall we say, Mechanism of learn teaching set up by the sublogos before the beginning of your space-time. Question 46.13. Questioner: how does cancer do this learn teaching when the entity developing cancer has no conscious idea of what is happening to him when he develops cancer? Answer: I am Ra. In many cases catalyst is not used. Question 46.14. Questioner: what is the plan for use of the catalyst of cancer? Answer: I am Ra. The catalyst, and all catalyst, is designed to offer experience. This experience in your density may be loved and accepted, or it may be controlled. These are the two paths. When neither path is chosen, the catalyst fails in its design and the entity proceeds until catalyst strikes it, which causes it to form a bias towards acceptance and love, or separation and control. There is no lack of space-time in which this catalyst may work. Question 46.15. Questioner: I am assuming that the plan of the logos is for positively and negatively polarized social memory complexes in fourth density and above. Can you tell me the purpose of the plan for these two types of social memory complexes with respect to Coulomb's law, or negative and positive electrical polarity, or in any way that you can? Answer: I am Ra. This instrument grows weary. We shall speak with you again. We may indicate the possibility, without further harm to this instrument, of approximately 2 sessions per your weekly period until these weeks of potential for attack and presence of very low physical energy are past. May we say it is good to be with this group. We appreciate your fidelity. Are there any brief queries before the end of this work time? Question 46.16. Questioner: only is there anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact? Answer: I am Ra. Each is supporting the instrument well, and the instrument remains steady in its purpose. You are conscientious. All is well. We ward you ware of any laxity regarding the arrangement and orientation of appurtenances. I am Ra. I leave you, my friends, in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We communicate now. Question 47.1. Questioner: could you first give us an indication of the condition of the instrument? Answer: I am Ra. It is as previously stated. Question 47.2. Questioner: the question that I was trying to ask at the end of the last session was, of what value to evolution or experience with respect to the Creator knowing itself are the positive and negative social memory complexes that form starting in fourth density, and why was this planned by the Logos? Answer: I am Ra. There are inherent incorrectness in your query. However, we may answer the main point of it. The incorrectness lies in the consideration that social memory complexes were planned by the Logos or sub-Logos. This is incorrect, as the unity of the Creator exists within the smallest portion of any material created by love, much less in a self-aware being. However, the distortion of free will causes the social memory complex to appear as a possibility at a certain stage of evolution of mind. The purpose, or consideration which causes entities to form such complexes, of these social memory complexes, is a very simple extension of the basic distortion towards the Creator's knowing of itself, for when a group of mind, body, spirits becomes able to form a social memory complex, all experience of each entity is available to the whole of the complex. Thus the Creator knows more of its creation in each entity partaking of this communion of entities. Question 47.3. Questioner: You gave the values of better than 50% service to others for fourth density positive and better than 95% service to self for fourth density negative social memory complexes. Do these two values correspond to the same rate, shall I say, of vibration? Answer: I am Ra. I perceive you have difficulty in expressing your query. We shall respond in an attempt to clarify your query. The vibratory rates are not to be understood as the same in positive and negative orientations. They are to be understood as having the power to accept and work with intelligent infinity to a certain degree or intensity. Due to the fact that the primary color, shall we say, or energy blue is missing from the negatively oriented system of power, the green-blue vibratory energies are not seen in the vibratory schedules or patterns of negative fourth and fifth rates of vibration. The positive, on the other hand, shall we say, has the full spectrum of true color time-space vibratory patterns and thus contains a variant vibratory pattern or schedule. Each is capable of doing fourth density work. This is the criterion for harvest. Question 47.4. Questioner: did you say that blue was missing from fourth density negative? Answer: I am Ra. Let us clarify further. As we have previously stated, all beings have the potential for all possible vibratory rates. Thus the potential of the green and blue energy center activation is, of course, precisely where it must be in a creation of love. However, the negatively polarized entity will have achieved harvest due to extremely efficient use of red and yellow-orange, moving directly to the gateway indigo, bringing through this intelligent energy channel the instreamings of intelligent infinity. Question 47.5. Questioner: then at fourth density graduation into fifth, is there anything like that which you gave as the percentages necessary for third density graduation into fourth in polarization? Answer: I am Ra. There are, in your modes of thinking, responses we can make, which we shall make. However, the important point is that the graduations from density to density do occur. The positive-negative polarity is a thing which will, at the sixth level, simply become history. Therefore, we speak in an illusory time continuum when we discuss statistics of positive versus negative harvest into fifth. A large percentage of fourth density negative entities continue the negative path from fourth to fifth density experience, for without wisdom the compassion and desire to aid other self is not extremely well informed. Thus, though one loses approximately 2% moving from negative to positive during the fourth density experience, we find approximately 8% of graduations into fifth density those of the negative. Question 47.6. Questioner: what I was actually asking was if 50% is required for graduation from third to fourth in the positive sense and 95% was required for graduation in the negative sense. Does this have to more closely approach 100% for graduation in both cases for graduation from fourth to fifth density? Does an entity have to be 99% polarized for negative and maybe 80% polarized positive for graduation? Answer: I am Ra. We perceive the query now. To give this in your terms is misleading for there are, shall we say, visual aids or training aids available in fourth density which automatically aid the entity in polarization while cutting down extremely upon the quick effect of catalyst. Thus the density above yours must take up more space-time. The percentage of service to others of positively oriented entities will harmoniously approach 98% in intention. The qualifications for fifth density, however, involve understanding. This then becomes the primary qualification for graduation from fourth to fifth density. To achieve this graduation, the entity must be able to understand the actions, the movements, and the dance. There is no percentage describable which measures this understanding. It is a measure of efficiency of perception. It may be measured by light. The ability to love, accept, and use a certain intensity of light thus creates the requirement for both positive and negative fourth to fifth harvesting. Question 47.7. Questioner: Can you define what you mean by a crystallized entity? Answer: I am Ra. We have used this particular term because it has a fairly precise meaning in your language. When a crystalline structure is formed of your physical material, the elements present in each molecule are bonded in a regularized fashion with elements in each other molecule. Thus the structure is regular and, when fully and perfectly crystallized, has certain properties. It will not splinter or break, it is very strong without effort, and it is radiant, traducing light into a beautiful refraction, giving pleasure of the eye to many. Question 47.8. Questioner: in our esoteric literature numerous bodies are listed. I have listed here the physical body, the etheric, the emotional, the astral. Can you tell me if this listing is the proper number, and can you tell me the uses and purposes and effects etc. of each of these and any other bodies that may be in our mind, body, spirit complex? Answer: I am Ra. To answer your query fully would be the work of many sessions such as this one, for the interrelationships of the various bodies and each body's effects in various situations is an enormous study. However, we shall begin by referring your minds back to the spectrum of true colors and the usage of this understanding in grasping the various densities of your octave. We have the number 7 repeated from the macrocosm to the microcosm in structure and experience. Therefore, it would only be expected that there would be 7 basic bodies which we would perhaps be the most lucid by stating as red ray body, etc. However, we are aware that you wish to correspond these bodies mentioned with the color rays. This will be confusing, for various teachers have offered their learning understanding in various terms. Thus one may name a subtle body one thing and another find a different name. The red ray body is your chemical body. However, it is not the body which you have as clothing in the physical. It is the unconstructed material of the body, the elemental body without form. This basic unformed material body is important to understand, for there are healings which may be carried out by the simple understanding of the elements present in the physical vehicle. The orange ray body is the physical body complex. This body complex is still not the body you inhabit, but rather the body formed without self-awareness, the body in the womb before the spirit-mind complex enters. This body may live without the inhabitation of the mind and spirit complexes. However, it seldom does so. The yellow ray body is your physical vehicle which you know of at this time and in which you experience catalyst. This body has the mind, body, spirit characteristics and is equal to the physical illusion, as you have called it. The green ray body is that body which may be seen in seance when what you call ectoplasm is furnished. This is a lighter body packed more densely with life. You may call this the astral body following some other teachings. Others have called this same body the etheric body. However, this is not correct in the sense that the etheric body is that body of gateway wherein intelligent energy is able to mold the mind, body, spirit complex. The light body or blue ray body may be called the Divchanic body. There are many other names for this body, especially in your so-called Indian sutras or writings, for there are those among these peoples which have explored these regions and understand the various types of Divchanic bodies. There are many types of bodies in each density, much like your own. The indigo ray body, which we choose to call the etheric body, is, as we have said, the gateway body. In this body form is substance, and you may only see this body as that of light, as it may mold itself as it desires. The violet ray body may perhaps be understood as what you might call the Buddha body, or that body which is complete. Each of these bodies has an effect upon your mind, body, spirit complex in your life beingness. The interrelationships, as we have said, are many and complex. Perhaps one suggestion that may be indicated is this: the indigo ray body may be used by the healer once the healer becomes able to place its consciousness in this etheric state. The violet ray or Buddhic body is of equal efficacy to the healer, for within it lies a sense of awareness which is extremely close to unity with all that there is. These bodies are part of each entity, and the proper use of them and understanding of them is, though far advanced from the standpoint of third density harvest, nevertheless useful to the adept. Question 47.9. Questioner: which bodies do we have immediately after physical death from this yellow ray body that I now am in? Answer: I am Ra. You have all bodies in potentiation. Question 47.10. Questioner: then the yellow ray body in potentiation is used to create this chemical arrangement that I have as a physical body now. Is this correct? Answer: I am Ra. This is incorrect only in that in your present incarnation the yellow ray body is not in potentiation but in activation, it being that body which is manifest. Question 47.11. Questioner: then after death, from this incarnation we still have the yellow ray body in potentiation, but then in the general case of our planetary population after death, would they then normally have the green ray body manifested? Answer: I am Ra. Not immediately. The first body which activates itself upon death is the form maker, or the indigo ray body. This body remains, you have called it the Ka, until etheria has been penetrated and understanding has been gained by the mind, body, spirit totality. Once this is achieved, if the proper body to be activated is green ray, then this will occur. Question 47.12. Questioner: let me make a statement and you tell me if I am correct. After death then, if an entity is unaware, he may become what is called an earthbound spirit until he is able to achieve the required awareness for activation of one of his bodies. Would it be possible then to activate any of the bodies from red through violet? Answer: I am Ra. Given the proper stimulus, this is correct. Question 47.13. Questioner: what stimulus would create what we call an earthbound spirit or a lingering ghost? Answer: I am Ra. The stimulus for this is the faculty of the will. If the will of yellow ray mind, body, spirit has that which is stronger than the progressive impetus of the physical death towards realization of that which comes, that is, if the will is concentrated enough upon the previous experience, the entity shell of yellow ray, though no longer activated, cannot either be completely deactivated and, until the will is released, the mind, body, spirit complex is caught. This often occurs, as we see you are aware, in the case of sudden death as well as in the case of extreme concern for a thing or another self. Question 47.14. Questioner: well then, does orange ray activation after death occur very frequently with this planet? Answer: I am Ra. Quite infrequently, due to the fact that this particular manifestation is without will. Occasionally another self will so demand the form of the one passing through the physical death that some semblance of the being will remain. This is orange ray. This is rare, for normally if one entity desires another enough to call it, the entity will have the corresponding desire to be called. Thus the manifestation would be the shell of yellow ray. Question 47.15. Questioner: what does the large percentage of the Earth's population, as they pass through the physical, activate? Answer: I am Ra. This shall be the last full query of this working. The normal procedure, given the harmonious passage from yellow ray bodily manifestation, is for the mind and spirit complex to rest in the etheric or indigo body until such time as the entity begins its preparation for experience in an incarnated place which is a manifestation formed by the etheric energy molding it into activation and manifestation. This indigo body, being intelligent energy, is able to offer the newly dead, as you would term it, soul a perspective and a place from which to view the experience most recently manifested. Is there a short query we may answer at this time? Question 47.16. Questioner: I will only ask if there is anything that we may do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact. Answer: I am Ra. The appurtenances are conscientiously measured by Iron Spirit. You are conscientious. All is well. Observe this instrument to ensure continued building of the vital energies. It will have to work upon its own physical energies, for this weakness was brought about by free will of the self. I am Ra. We leave you now in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We communicate now. Question 48.1. Questioner, could you tell us of the instrument's condition and if she is improving with time? Answer, I am Ra. This instrument's vital energies are improving with time, as you measure it. This instrument's physical energies are less than your previous asking. Question 48.2. Questioner, I have a question from the instrument that I will read. You have suggested several times that sexual energy transfers aid the instrument's vital energy and this contact. It seems that this is not true for all people, that the sexual circuitry and the spiritual circuitry are not the same. Is this instrument an anomaly, or is the positive effect of sexual activity on spiritual energy normal for all third density beings? Answer, I am Ra. This instrument, though not anomalous, is somewhat less distorted towards the separation of mind, body, and spirit than many of your third density entities. The energies of sexual transfer would, if run through the undeveloped spiritual electrical or magnetic complex which you call circuitry, effectually blow out that particular circuit. Contrarily, the full spiritual energies run through bodily complex circuitry will also adversely affect the undeveloped circuit of the bodily complex. Some there are, such as this instrument, who have not in the particular incarnation chosen at any time to express sexual energy through the bodily circuitry. Thus from the beginning of such an entity's experience the body and spirit express together in any sexual action. Therefore, to transfer sexual energy for this instrument is to transfer spiritually as well as physically. This instrument's magnetic field, if scrutinized by one sensitive, will show these unusual configurations. This is not unique to one entity but is common to a reasonable number of entities who, having lost the desire for orange and yellow ray sexual experiences, have strengthened the combined circuitry of spirit, mind, and body to express their totality of beingness in each action. It is for this reason also that the social intercourse and companionship is very beneficial to this instrument, it being sensitive to the more subtle energy transfers. Question 48.3. Questioner, thank you. If you, Ra, as an individualized entity were incarnate on Earth now with full awareness and memory of what you know now, what will be your objective at this time on Earth as far as activities are concerned? Answer, I am Ra. The query suggests that which has been learned to be impractical. However, were we to again be naive enough to think that our physical presence was any more effective than that love light we send your peoples and the treasure of this contact, we would do as we did do. We would be, and we would offer ourselves as teach-learners. Question 48.4. Questioner, my lecture yesterday was attended by only a few. If this had occurred during a UFO flap many more would have attended. Since Orion entities cause the flaps, what is Orion's reward for visibility in that they actually create greater opportunities for the dissemination of information such as this information at those times? Answer, I am Ra. This assumption is incorrect. The flaps cause many fears among your peoples, many speakings, understandings concerning plots, cover-ups, mutilations, killings, and other negative impressions. Even those supposedly positive reports which gain public awareness speak of doom. You may understand yourself as one who will be in the minority due to the understandings which you wish to share, if we may use that misnomer. We perceive there is a further point we may posit at this time. The audience brought about by Orion-type publicity is not seeded by seniority of vibration to a great extent. The audiences receiving teach learnings without stimulus from publicity will be more greatly oriented towards illumination. Therefore, forget you the counting. Question 48.5. Questioner: Thank you. That clears up the point very well. Can you tell me how positive and negative polarizations in fourth and fifth density are used to cause working in consciousness? Answer: I am Ra. There is very little work in consciousness in fourth and in fifth densities compared to the work done in third density. The work that is accomplished in positive fourth is that work whereby the positive social memory complex, having, through slow stages, harmoniously integrated itself, goes forth to aid those of less positive orientation which seek their aid. Thus their service is their work, and through this dynamic between the societal self and the other self, which is the object of love, greater and greater intensities of understanding or compassion are attained. This intensity continues until the appropriate intensity of the light may be welcomed. This is fourth density harvest. Within fourth density positive there are minor amounts of catalyst of a spiritual and mental complex distortion. This occurs during the process of harmonizing to the extent of forming the social memory complex. This causes some small catalyst and work to occur, but the great work of fourth density lies in the contact betwixt the societal self and less polarized other self. In fourth density negative much work is accomplished during the fighting for position which precedes the period of the social memory complex. They are opportunities to polarize negatively by control of other selves. During the social memory complex period of fourth density negative the situation is the same. The work takes place through the societal reaching out to less polarized other self in order to aid in negative polarization. In fifth density positive and negative the concept of work done through a potential difference is not particularly helpful, as fifth density entities are, again, intensifying rather than potentiating. In positive, the fifth density complex uses sixth density teach learners to study the more illuminated understandings of unity, thus becoming more and more wise. Fifth density positive social memory complexes will choose to divide their service to others in two ways: first, the beaming of light to creation; second, the sending of groups to be of aid as instruments of light, such as those whom you are familiar with through channels. In fifth density negative, service to self has become extremely intense and the self has shrunk or compacted so that the dialogues with the teach learners are used exclusively in order to intensify wisdom. There are very, very few fifth density negative wanderers, for they fear the forgetting. There are very, very few fifth density Orion members, for they do not any longer perceive any virtue in other selves. Question 48.6. Questioner: Thank you. I would like to take as an example an entity, starting before birth, who is roughly high on the seniority list for positive polarization and possible harvestability at the end of this cycle, and follow a full cycle of his experience starting before his incarnation, which body is activated, the process of becoming incarnate, the activation of the third density physical body, the process as the body moves through this density and is acted upon by catalysts, the process of death, and the activation of the various bodies, so that we make a full circuit from a point prior to incarnation back around through incarnation and death, you might say one cycle of incarnation in this density. Could you do that for me? Answer: I am Ra. Your query is most distorted, for it assumes that creations are alike. Each mind, body, spirit complex has its own patterns of activation and its own rhythms of awakening. The important thing for harvest is the harmonious balance between the various energy centers of the mind, body, spirit complex. This is to be noted as of relative import. We grasp the thrust of your query and will make a most general answer, stressing the unimportance of such arbitrary generalizations. The entity, before incarnation, dwells in the appropriate, shall we say, place in time-space. The true color type of this location will be dependent upon the entity's needs. Those entities, for instance, which, being wanderers, have the green, blue, or indigo true color core of mind, body, spirit complex will have rested therein. Entrance into incarnation requires the investment or activation of the indigo ray or etheric body. For this is the formaker. The young or small physical mind, body, spirit complex has the 7 energy centers potentiated before the birthing process. They are also analogues in time-space of these energy centers corresponding to the 7 energy centers in each of the 7 true color densities. Thus in the microcosm exists all the experience that has prepared. It is as though the infant contains the universe. The patterns of activation of an entity of high seniority will undoubtedly move with some rapidity to the green ray level, which is the springboard to primary blue. There is always some difficulty in penetrating blue primary energy, for it requires that which your people have in great paucity, that is, honesty. Blue ray is the ray of free communication with self and with other self. Having accepted that an harvestable or nearly harvestable entity will be working from this green ray springboard, one may then posit that the experiences in the remainder of the incarnation will be focused upon activation of the primary blue ray of freely given communication, of indigo ray, that of freely shared intelligent energy, and if possible, moving through this gateway, the penetration of violet ray intelligent infinity. This may be seen to be manifested by a sense of the consecrate or hallowed nature of everyday creations and activities. Upon the bodily complex death, as you call this transition, the entity will immediately, upon realization of its state, return to the indigo form maker body and rest therein until the proper future placement is made. Here we have the anomaly of harvest. In harvest, the entity will then transfer its indigo body into violet ray manifestation as seen in true color yellow. This is for the purpose of gauging the harvestability of the entity. After this anomalous activity has been carefully completed, the entity will move into indigo body again and be placed in the correct true color locus in space-time and time-space, at which time the healings and learned teachings necessary shall be completed and further incarnation needs determined. Question 48.7. Questioner, who supervises the determination of further incarnation needs and sets up the seniority list for incarnation. Answer: I am Ra. This is a query with 2 answers. Firstly, there are those directly under the guardians who are responsible for the incarnation patterns of those incarnating automatically, that is, without conscious self-awareness of the process of spiritual evolution. You may call these beings angelic if you prefer. They are, shall we say, local, or of your planetary sphere. The seniority of vibration is to be likened unto placing various grades of liquids in the same glass. Some will rise to the top, others will sink to the bottom. Layers and layers of entities will ensue. As harvest draws near, those filled with the most light and love will naturally, and without supervision, be in line, shall we say, for the experience of incarnation. When the entity becomes aware in its mind, body, spirit complex totality of the mechanism for spiritual evolution, it, itself, will arrange and place those lessons and entities necessary for maximum growth and expression of polarity in the incarnative experience before the forgetting process occurs. The only disadvantage of this total free will of those senior entities choosing the manner of incarnation experiences is that some entities attempt to learn so much during one incarnative experience that the intensity of catalyst disarranges the polarized entity and the experience thus is not maximally useful as intended. Question 48.8. Questioner: an analogy to that will be a student in college signing up for more courses than he could possibly assimilate in the time they were given. Is this correct? Answer: I am Ra. This is correct. Question 48.9. Questioner: could you tell me how the various bodies, red through violet, are linked to the energy centers, red through violet? Are they linked in some way? Answer: I am Ra. This shall be the last full query of this working. As we have noted, each of the true colored entities has the 7 energy centers, and each entity contains all this in potentiation. The activation, while in yellow ray, of violet ray intelligent infinity is a passport to the next octave of experience. There are adepts who have penetrated many of the energy centers and several of the true colors. This must be done with utmost care while in the physical body, for as we noted when speaking of the dangers of linking red-orange-yellow circuitry with true color blue circuitry, the potential for disarrangement of the mind-body-spirit complex is great. However, the entity who penetrates intelligent infinity is basically capable of walking the universe with unfettered tread. Is there any brief query before we leave this instrument? Question 48.10. Questioner: just if there is anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact? Answer: I am Ra. All is well. As we have said, this instrument is weak physically and continued work times will lengthen this weakness. The continued contact also aids in the continued climb in vital energy of the instrument as well as the integration and vital energy of the group as an unit. The choice is yours. We are pleased. All is well. You are conscientious. Continue so. I am Ra. I leave you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, then, my friends, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We communicate now. Question 49.1. Questioner: would you please give us a reading on the instrument's condition? Answer: I am Ra. It is as previously stated. Question 49.2. Questioner: I have a question here from Jim first. He says, for the past 9 years I have had what I call frontal lobes experiences in the pre-conscious state of sleep when I wake up in the morning. They are a combination of pleasure and pressure which begins in the frontal lobes and spreads in pulses through the whole brain and feels like an orgasm in the brain. I have had over 200 of these experiences and often they are accompanied by voices and visions which seldom make much sense to me. What is the source of these frontal lobes experiences? Answer: I am Ra. We scan the questioner and find some pertinent information already available which regards the physiological disposition of this particular part of the brain. The experiences described and experienced are those distillations which may be experienced after a concentration of effort upon the opening of the gateway or indigo mind complex so that experience of a sacramental or violet ray may occur. These experiences are the beginnings of that which, as the body, the mind, and the spirit become integrated at the gateway or indigo level, may then yield not only the experience of joy but the comprehension of intelligent infinity which accompanies it. Thus the body complex orgasm and mind complex orgasm becoming integrated may then set forth the proper gateway for the spiritual complex integration and its use as a shuttle for the sacrament of the fully experienced presence of the one infinite Creator. Thus there is much to which the questioner may look forward. Question 49.3. Questioner: I was wondering, in a previous session you had mentioned the left and right ear tones, the left and the right brain somehow being related to the polarities of service to self and service to others. Could you comment on this? Answer: I am Ra. We may comment on this. Question 49.4. Questioner: will you go ahead and comment on this? Answer: I am Ra. The lobes of your physical complex brain are alike in their use of weak electrical energy. The entity ruled by intuition and impulse is equal to the entity governed by rational analysis when polarity is considered. The lobes may both be used for service to self or service to others. It may seem that the rational or analytical mind might have more of a possibility of successfully pursuing the negative orientation due to the fact that in our understanding too much order is by its essence negative. However, this same ability to structure abstract concepts and to analyze experiential data may be the key to rapid positive polarization. It may be said that those whose analytical capacities are predominant have somewhat more to work with in polarizing. The function of intuition is to inform intelligence. In your illusion, the unbridled predominance of intuition will tend to keep an entity from the greater polarizations due to the vagaries of intuitive perception. As you may see, these two types of brain structure need to be balanced in order that the net sum of experiential catalyst will be polarization and illumination, for without the acceptance by the rational mind of the worth of the intuitive faculty, the creative aspects which aid in illumination will be stifled. There is one correspondence between right and left and positive and negative. The web of energy which surrounds your bodies contains somewhat complex polarizations. The left area of the head and upper shoulder is most generally seen to be of a negative polarization, whereas the right is of positive polarization, magnetically speaking. This is the cause of the tone's meaning for you. Question 49.5. Questioner: will you expand on the positive and negative polarizations in general and how they apply to individuals and planets, etc.? I think there is a correlation here, but I am not sure. Answer: I am Ra. It is correct that there is a correlation between the energy field of an entity of your nature and planetary bodies, for all material is constructed by means of the dynamic tension of the magnetic field. The lines of force in both cases may be seen to be much like the interweaving spirals of the braided hair. Thus positive and negative wind and interweave forming geometric relationships in the energy fields of both persons, as you would call a mind, body, spirit complex, and planets. The negative pole is the south pole or the lower pole. The north or upper pole is positive. The crisscrossing of these spiraling energies form primary, secondary, and tertiary energy centers. You are familiar with the primary energy centers of the physical, mental, and spiritual body complex. Secondary points of the crisscrossing of positive and negative center orientation revolve about several of your centers. The yellow ray center may be seen to have secondary energy centers in elbow, in knee, and in the subtle bodies at a slight spacing from the physical vehicle at points describing diamonds about the entity's navel area surrounding the body. One may examine each of the energy centers for such secondary centers. Some of your peoples work with these energy centers, and you call this acupuncture. However, it is to be noted that there are most often anomalies in the placement of the energy centers so that the scientific precision of this practice is brought into question. Like most scientific attempts at precision, it fails to take into account the unique qualities of each creation. The most important concept to grasp about the energy field is that the lower or negative pole will draw the universal energy into itself from the cosmos. Therefrom it will move upward to be met and reacted to by the positive spiraling energy moving downward from within. The measure of an entity's level of ray activity is the locus wherein the south pole outer energy has been met by the inner spiraling positive energy. As an entity grows more polarized, this locus will move upwards. This phenomenon has been called by your peoples the Kundalini. However, it may better be thought of as the meeting place of cosmic and inner, shall we say, vibratory understanding. To attempt to raise the locus of this meeting without realizing the metaphysical principles of magnetism upon which this depends is to invite great imbalance. Question 49.6. Questioner: what process would be the recommended process for correctly awakening the Kundalini, and of what value would that be? Answer: I am Ra. The metaphor of the coiled serpent being called upwards is vastly appropriate for consideration by your peoples. This is what you are attempting when you seek. There are, as we have stated, great misapprehensions concerning this metaphor and the nature of pursuing its goal. We must generalize and ask that you grasp the fact that this in effect renders far less useful that which we share. However, as each entity is unique, generalities are our lot when communicating for your possible edification. We have two types of energy. We are attempting then, as entities in any true color of this octave, to move the meeting place of inner and outer natures further and further along or upward along the energy centers. The two methods of approaching this with sensible method are first, the seating within one's self of those experiences which are attracted to the entity through the South Pole. Each experience will need to be observed, experienced, balanced, accepted, and seated within the individual. As the entity grows in self-acceptance and awareness of catalyst, the location of the comfortable seating of these experiences will rise to the new true color entity. The experience, whatever it may be, will be seated in red ray and considered as to its survival content and so forth. Each experience will be sequentially understood by the growing and seeking mind, body, spirit complex in terms of survival, then in terms of personal identity, then in terms of social relations, then in terms of universal love, then in terms of how the experience may beget free communication, then in terms of how the experience may be linked to universal energies, and finally in terms of the sacramental nature of each experience. Meanwhile the Creator lies within. In the North Pole the crown is already upon the head and the entity is potentially a god. This energy is brought into being by the humble and trusting acceptance of this energy through meditation and contemplation of the Self and of the Creator. Where these energies meet is where the serpent will have achieved its height. When this uncoiled energy approaches universal love and radiant being, the entity is in a state whereby the harvestability of the entity comes nigh. Question 49.7. Questioner: will you recommend a technique of meditation? Answer: I am Ra. No. Question 49.8. Questioner: is it better, or shall I say, does it produce more usable results in meditation to leave the mind as blank as possible and let it run down, so to speak, or is it better to focus in meditation on some object or something for concentration? Answer: I am Ra. This shall be the last full query of this work time. Each of the two types of meditation is useful for a particular reason. The passive meditation involving the clearing of the mind, the emptying of the mental jumble which is characteristic of mind-complex activity among your peoples, is efficacious for those whose goal is to achieve an inner silence as a base from which to listen to the Creator. This is an useful and helpful tool and is by far the most generally useful type of meditation as opposed to contemplation or prayer. The type of meditation which may be called visualization has as its goal not that which is contained in the meditation itself. Visualization is the tool of the adept. Those who learn to hold visual images in mind are developing an inner concentrative power that can transcend boredom and discomfort. When this ability has become crystallized in an adept, the adept may then do polarizing in consciousness without external action which can affect the planetary consciousness. This is the reason for the existence of the so-called white magician. Only those wishing to pursue the conscious raising of planetary vibration will find visualization to be a particularly satisfying type of meditation. Contemplation or the consideration in a meditative state of an inspiring image or text is extremely useful also among your peoples, and the faculty of will-called praying is also of a potentially helpful nature. Whether it is indeed an helpful activity depends quite totally upon the intentions and objects of the one who prays. May we ask if there are any brief queries at this time? Question 49.9. Questioner: I will just ask if there is anything that we may do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact, and if the 2 periods per week are still appropriate. Answer: I am Ra. We request your care in the placement of the neck support for this entity as it is too often careless. You are conscientious and your alignments are well. The timing, if we may use that expression, of the sessions is basically correct. However, you are to be commended for observing fatigue in the circle and refraining from working until all were in love, harmony, and vital energy as one being. This is, and will continue to be, most helpful. I am Ra. I leave you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We communicate now. Question 50.1. Questioner, could you please give me an indication of the instrument's condition now? Answer, I am Ra. It is as previously stated. Question 50.2. Questioner, in the last session you made the statement that experiences are attracted into the entity through the South Pole. Could you expand on that and give us a definition of what you mean? Answer, I am Ra. It takes some consideration to accomplish the proper perspective for grasping the sense of the above information. The south or negative pole is one which attracts. It pulls unto itself those things magnetized to it. So with the mind, body, spirit complex. The inflow of experience is of the South Pole influx. You may consider this a simplistic statement. The only specific part of this correctness is that the red ray or foundation energy center, being the lowest root energy center of the physical vehicle, will have the first opportunity to react to any experience. In this way only, you may see a physical locus of the South Pole being identified with the root energy center. In every facet of mind and body the root or foundation will be given the opportunity to function first. What is this opportunity but survival? This is the root possibility of response and may be found to be characteristic of the basic functions of both mind and body. You will find this instinct the strongest, and once this is balanced much is open to the seeker. The South Pole then ceases blocking the experiential data and higher energy centers of mind and body become availed of the opportunity to use the experience drawn to it. Question 50.3. Questioner, why do you say the experience is drawn to or attracted to the entity? Answer, I am Ra. We say this due to our understanding that this is the nature of the phenomenon of experiential catalyst and its entry into the mind, body, spirit complex as awareness. Question 50.4. Questioner, could you give an example of how an entity sets up a condition for attracting a particular experiential catalyst and how that catalyst then is provided or is learned? Answer, I am Ra. Such an example may be given. Question 50.5. Questioner, will you give that? Answer, I am Ra. We pause to scan, names, consciousness to use its experiential catalyst as example. We may proceed. This is one instance and extrapolation may be made to other entities which are aware of the process of evolution. This entity chose, before incarnation, the means whereby catalyst had great probability of being obtained. This entity desired the process of expressing love and light without expecting any return. This entity programmed also to endeavor to accomplish spiritual work and to comfort itself with companionship in the doing of this work. Agreements were made prior to incarnation, the first, with the so-called parents and siblings of this entity. This provided the experiential catalyst for the situation of offering radiance of being without expectation of return. The second program involved agreements with several entities. These agreements provided and will provide, in your time-space and space-time continuum, opportunities for the experiential catalyst of work and comradeship. They are events which were part of a program for this entity only in that they were possibility-probability vortices having to do with your societal culture. These events include the nature of the living or standard of living, the type of relationships entered into in your legal framework, and the social climate during the incarnation. The incarnation was understood to be one which would take place at harvest. These givens, shall we say, apply to millions of your peoples. Those aware of evolution and desirous in the very extreme of attaining the heart of love and the radiance which gives understanding no matter what the lessons programmed, they have to do with other selves, not with events. They have to do with giving, not receiving, for the lessons of love are of this nature both for positive and negative. Those negatively harvestable will be found at this time endeavoring to share their love of self. There are those whose lessons are more random due to their present inability to comprehend the nature and mechanism of the evolution of mind, body, and spirit. Of these we may say that the process is guarded by those who never cease their watchful expectation of being of service. There is no entity without help, either through self-awareness of the unity of creation or through guardians of the self which protect the less sophisticated mind, body, spirit from any permanent separation from unity while the lessons of your density continue. Question 50.6. Questioner: could you give an example of negative polarization sharing love of self? It would seem to me that that would deplete negative polarization. Could you expand on the concept? Answer: I am Ra. We may not use examples of known beings due to the infringement this would cause. Thus we must be general. The negatively oriented being will be one who feels that it has found power that gives meaning to its existence precisely as the positive polarization does feel. This negative entity will strive to offer these understandings to other selves, most usually by the process of forming the elite, the disciples, and teaching the need and rightness of the enslavement of other selves for their own good. These other selves are conceived to be dependent upon the self and in need of the guidance and the wisdom of the self. Question 50.7. Questioner: can you expand on the concept which is that it is necessary for an entity during incarnation in the physical as we know it, to become polarized or interact properly with other entities, and why this isn't possible in between incarnations when the entity is aware of what he wants to do? Why must he come into an incarnation and lose conscious memory of what he wants to do and then act in a way in which he hopes to act? Answer: I am Ra. Let us give the example of the man who sees all the poker hands. He then knows the game. It is but child's play to gamble, for it is no risk. The other hands are known. The possibilities are known and the hand will be played correctly but with no interest. In time, space and in the true color green density, the hands of all are open to the eye. The thoughts, the feelings, the troubles, all these may be seen. There is no deception and no desire for deception. Thus much may be accomplished in harmony, but the mind, body, spirit gains little polarity from this interaction. Let us re-examine this metaphor and multiply it into the longest poker game you can imagine, a lifetime. The cards are love, dislike, limitation, unhappiness, pleasure, etc. They are dealt and redealt continuously. You may, during this incarnation, begin, and we stress begin, to know your own cards. You may begin to find the love within you. You may begin to balance your pleasure, your limitations, etc. However, your only indication of other selves' cards is to look into the eyes. You cannot remember your hand, their hands, perhaps even the rules of this game. This game can only be won by those who lose their cards in the melting influence of love, can only be won by those who lay their pleasures, their limitations, their all upon the table, face up and say inwardly, all of you players, each other self, whatever your hand, I love you. This is the game, to know, to accept, to forgive, to balance and to open the self in love. This cannot be done without the forgetting, for it would carry no weight in the life of the mind, body, spirit beingness totality. Is there a brief query before we leave this instrument? Question 50.8. Questioner: thank you. How does the ability to hold visual images in mind allow the adept to do polarization in consciousness without external action? Answer: I am Ra. This is not a simple query, for the adept is one which will go beyond the green ray which signals entry into harvestability. The adept will not simply be tapping into intelligent energy as a means of readiness for harvest, but tapping into both intelligent energy and intelligent infinity for the purpose of transmuting planetary harvestability and consciousness. The means of this working lie within. The key is first, silence, and secondly, singleness of thought. Thusly a visualization which can be held steady to the inward eye for several of your minutes, as you measure time, will signal the adept's increase in singleness of thought. This singleness of thought then can be used by the positive adept to work in group ritual visualizations for the raising of positive energy, by negative adepts for the increase in personal power. Question 50.9. Questioner: can you tell me what the adept, after being able to hold the image for several minutes, does to affect planetary consciousness or affect positive polarity? Answer: I am Ra. When the positive adept touches intelligent infinity from within, this is the most powerful of connections, for it is the connection of the whole mind, body, spirit complex microcosm with the macrocosm. This connection enables the, shall we say, green ray true color in time-space to manifest in your space-time. In green ray thoughts are beings. In your illusion this is normally not so. The adepts then become living channels for love and light and are able to channel this radiance directly into the planetary web of energy nexi. The ritual will always end by the grounding of this energy in praise and thanksgiving and the release of this energy into the planetary whole. Question 50.10. Questioner: could you give me more information on the energy fields of the body as related to the right and left brain, and if this is somehow related to the pyramid shape as far as energy focusing goes? I am at a loss as to how to get into this line of questioning, so I will ask that question. Answer: I am Ra. We are similarly at a loss at this line of answering. We may say that the pyramid shape is but one which focuses the instreamings of energy for use by entities which may become aware of these instreamings. We may say further that the shape of your physical brain is not significant as a shape for concentrating instreamings of energy. Please ask more specifically, if you may, that which you seek. Question 50.11. Questioner: each of us feels, in meditation, energy upon the head in various places. Could you tell me what this is, what it signifies, and what the various places in which we feel it signify? Answer: I am Ra. Forgetting the pyramid will be of aid to you in the study of these experiences. The instreamings of energy are felt by the energy centers which need, and are prepared for, activation. Thus those who feel the stimulation at vibratry level are getting just that. Those feeling it within the forehead between the brows are experiencing indigo ray and so forth. Those experiencing tingling and visual images are having some blockage in the energy center being activated, and thus the electrical body spreads this energy out and its effect is diffused. Those not truly sincerely requesting this energy may yet feel it if the entities are not well trained in psychic defense. Those not desirous of experiencing these sensations and activations and changes even upon the subconscious level will not experience anything due to their abilities at defense and armoring against change. Question 50.12. Questioner: is it normal to get two simultaneous stimulations at once? Answer: I am Ra. The most normal for the adept is the following: the indigo stimulation activating the great gateway into healing, magical work, prayerful attention, and the radiance of being, and the stimulation of the violet ray which is the spiritual giving and taking from unto creator, from creator to creator. This is a desirable configuration. Please ask one more full query at this working. Question 50.13. Questioner: is there anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact? Answer: I am Ra. You are conscientious and your alignments are careful. it would be well to take care that this instrument's neck is placed carefully upon its support. I am Ra. I leave you, my friends, in the love and the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, then, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We communicate now. Question 51.1. Questioner, as we begin Book 3 of the Law of One, there are a couple of questions of fairly non-transient importance that I have, and one that I consider to be of a transient nature that I feel obligated to ask. The first is clearing up the final point about harvest. I was wondering if there is a supervision over the harvest, and if so, why this supervision is necessary and how it works, since an entity's harvestability is determined by the violet ray. Is it necessary for entities to supervise the harvest, or is it automatic? Answer: I am Ra. In time of harvest they are always harvesters. The fruit is formed as it will be, but there is some supervision necessary to ensure that this bounty is placed as it should be, without the bruise or the blemish. There are those of 3 levels watching over harvest. The first level is planetary, and that which may be called angelic. This type of guardian includes the mind, body, spirit complex totality or higher self of an entity, and those inner plane entities which have been attracted to this entity through its inner seeking. The second class of those who ward this process are those of the Confederation, who have the honor duty of standing in the small places at the edge of the steps of light love, so that those entities being harvested will not, no matter how confused or unable to make contact with their higher self, stumble and fall away for any reason other than the strength of the light. These Confederation entities catch those who stumble and set them aright so that they may continue into the light. The third group watching over this process is that group you call the Guardians. This group is from the octave above our own and serves in this manner as light bringers. These Guardians provide the precise emissions of light love in exquisitely fastidious disseminations of discriminations, so that the precise light love vibration of each entity may be ascertained. Thus the harvest is automatic, in that those harvested will respond according to that which is unchangeable during harvest. That is the violet ray emanation. However, these helpers are around to ensure our proper harvesting, so that each entity may have the fullest opportunity to express its violet ray selfhood. Question 51.2. Questioner, this next question I feel to be a transient type of question. However, it has been asked me by one whom I have communicated with, who has been involved intensely in the UFO portion of the phenomenon. If you deem it too transient or unimportant, we'll skip it, but I have been asked how it is possible for the craft of the 4th density to get here, since it seems that as you approach the velocity of light, the mass approaches infinity. My question would be why craft would be necessary at all. Answer: I am Ra. You have asked several questions. We shall respond in turn. Firstly, we agree that this material is transient. Secondly, those for the most part coming from distant points, as you term them, do not need craft as you know them. The query itself requires understanding which you do not possess. We shall attempt to state what may be stated. Firstly, there are a few 3rd density entities who have learned how to use craft to travel between star systems while experiencing the limitations you now understand. However, such entities have learned to use hydrogen in a way different from your understanding now. These entities still take quite long durations of time, as you measure it, to move about. However, these entities are able to use hypothermia to slow the physical and mental complex processes in order to withstand the duration of flight. Those such as are from Sirius are of this type. There are 2 other types. One is the type which, coming from 4th, 5th, or 6th density in your own galaxy, has access to a type of energy system which uses the speed of light as a slingshot and thus arrives where it wishes without any perceptible time elapsed in your view. The other type of experience is that of 4th, 5th, and 6th densities of other galaxies and some within your own galaxy which have learned the necessary disciplines of personality to view the universe as one being and, therefore, are able to perceive from locus to locus by thought alone, materializing the necessary craft, if you will, to enclose the light body of the entity. Question 51.3. Questioner: I assume that that latter type is the type we experience with the landings of the Orion group. Is this correct? Answer: I am Ra. The Orion group is mixed between the penultimate and the latter groups. Question 51.4. Questioner: why is a vehicle necessary for this transition? When you as Ra went to Egypt earlier you used bell-shaped craft, but you did this by thought. Can you tell me why you used a vehicle rather than just materializing the body? Answer: I am Ra. The vehicle or craft as that thought form upon which our concentration may function as motivator. We would not choose to use our mind, body, spirit complexes as the focus for such a working. Question 51.5. Questioner: thank you. It seems to me, and you can tell me where I am going wrong with this statement, that we have 7 bodies each corresponding to one of the 7 colors of the spectrum, and that energy that creates these 7 bodies is a universal type of energy that streams into our planetary environment and comes in through the 7 energy centers that we have called chakras to develop and perfect these bodies. Each of these bodies is somehow related to the mental configuration that we have, and the perfection of these bodies and the total in-streaming of this energy is a function of this mental configuration, and through this mental configuration we may block, to some extent, the in-streamings of energy that created these 7 bodies. Could you comment on where I am wrong and correct that which I have stated? Answer: I am Ra. Your statement is substantially correct. To use the term mental configuration is to oversimplify the manners of blockage of in-streaming which occur in your density. The mind complex has a relationship to the spirit and body complexes which is not fixed. Thus blockages may occur betwixt spirit and mind, or body and mind, upon many different levels. We reiterate that each energy center has 7 subcolors, let us say, for convenience. Thus spiritual mental blockages combined with mental bodily blockages may affect each of the energy centers in several differing ways. Thus you may see the subtle nature of the balancing and evolutionary process. Question 51.6. Questioner: I am unsure as to whether this will provide an avenue of questioning that will be fruitful, but I will ask this question since it seems to me that there is a connection here. On the back of the book, Secrets of the Great Pyramid, there are several reproductions of Egyptian drawings or works, some showing birds flying over horizontal entities. Could you tell me what this is and if it has any relationship to Ra? Answer: I am Ra. These drawings of which you speak are some of many which distort the teaching of our perception of death as the gateway to further experience. The distortions concern those considerations of specific nature as to processes of the so-called dead mind, body, spirit complex. This may be termed, in your philosophy, the distortion of Gnosticism, that is, the belief that one may achieve knowledge and the proper position by means of carefully perceived and accentuated movements, concepts, and symbols. In fact, the process of the physical death is, as we have described before, one in which there is aid available and the only need at death is the releasing of that entity from its body by those around it and the praising of the process by those who grieve. By these means may the mind, body, spirit which has experienced physical death be aided, not by the various perceptions of careful and repeated rituals. Question 51.7. Questioner: You spoke at an earlier time of rotational speeds of energy centers. Am I correct in assuming that this is a function of the blockage of the energy center so that when it is less blocked, The speed of rotation is higher and the energy in streaming is greater? Answer: I am Ra. You are partially correct. In the first three energy centers, a full unblocking of this energy will create speeds of rotation. As the entity develops the higher energy centers, however, these centers will then begin to express their nature by forming crystal structures. This is the higher or more balanced form of activation of energy centers, as the space-time nature of this energy is transmuted to the time-space nature of regularization and balance. Question 51.8. Questioner: What do you mean by crystal structures? Answer: I am Ra. Each of the energy centers of the physical complex may be seen to have a distinctive crystalline structure in the more developed entity. Each will be somewhat different, just as in your world no two snowflakes are alike. However, each is regular. The red energy center often is in the shape of the spoked wheel. The orange energy center in the flower shape containing 3 petals. The yellow center again in a rounded shape, many-faceted, as a star. The green energy center, sometimes called the lotus shape, the number of points of crystalline structure dependent upon the strength of this center. The blue energy center, capable of having perhaps 100 facets and capable of great flashing brilliance. The indigo center, a more quiet center which has the basic triangular or 3-petaled shape in many, although some adepts who have balanced the lower energies may create more faceted forms. The violet energy center is the least variable and is sometimes described in your philosophy as 1,000-petaled, as it is the sum of the mind, body, spirit complex distortion totality. Question 51.9. Questioner: Right now I feel a feeling at the indigo center. If this center were totally activated and not blocked at all, would I then feel nothing there? Answer: I am Ra. This query, if answered, would infringe upon the law of confusion. Question 51.10. Questioner: Immediately after the death of the physical body you have stated that the primary activated body is the indigo, and you stated that it is the form maker. Why is this so? Answer: I am Ra. This will be the last full query of this session of working. The indigo body may be seen to be an analog for intelligent energy. It is, in microcosm, the logos. The intelligent energy of the mind, body, spirit complex totality draws its existence from intelligent infinity or the Creator. This Creator is to be understood, both in macrocosm and microcosm, to have, as we have said, 2 natures, the unpotentiated infinity which is intelligent. This is all that there is. Free will has potentiated both the Creator of us all and ourselves as co-creators with intelligent infinity which is will. This will may be drawn upon by the indigo or form-making body and its wisdom used to then choose the appropriate locus and type of experience which this co-creator or sub-logos you call so carelessly a person will take. I am Ra. This is the time for any brief queries. Question 51.11. Questioner: Is there anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact? Answer: I am Ra. All is well. You are conscientious. I leave you now, my brothers, in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, then, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We communicate now. Question 52.1. Questioner: In the previous session you stated, the other type of experience is the 4th, 5th and 6th densities of other galaxies and some within your own galaxy which have learned necessary disciplines of personality to view the universe as one being are able to perceive from locus to locus by thought alone, materializing the necessary craft. I would like to ask you, when you say fourth, fifth, and sixth densities of other galaxies, some within your own galaxy, are you stating here that more of the entities in other galaxies have developed the abilities of personality than have those in this galaxy for this type of travel? I am using the term galaxy with respect to the lenticular shape of billions of stars. Answer: I am Ra. We have once again used a meaning for this term, galaxy, that does not lie within your vocabulary at this time, if you will call it so. We referred to your star system. It is incorrect to assume that other star systems are more able to manipulate the dimensions than your own. It is merely that there are many other systems besides your own. Question 52.2. Questioner: Thank you. I think that possibly I am on an important point here, because it seems to me that the great work in evolution is the discipline of personality, and it seems that we have two types of entities moving around the universe, one stemming from disciplines of personality, and the other stemming from what you call the slingshot effect. I won't even get into the sublight speeds because I don't consider that too important. I only consider this material important because of the fact that we are considering disciplines of the personality. Is the use of the slingshot effect for travel what you might call an intellectual or a left brain type of involvement of understanding rather than a right brain type? Answer: I am Ra. Your perception on this point is extensive. You penetrate the outer teaching. We prefer not to utilize the terminology of right and left brain due to the inaccuracies of this terminology. Some functions are repetitive or redundant in both lobes, and further, to some entities the functions of the right and left are reversed. However, the heart of the query is worth some consideration. The technology of which you, as a social complex, are so enamored at this time is but the bidding of the manipulation of the intelligent energy of the sublogos, which, when carried much further, may evolve into technology capable of using the gravitic effects of which we spoke. We note that this term is not accurate, but there is no closer term. Therefore, the use of technology to manipulate that outside the self is far, far less of an aid to personal evolution than the disciplines of the mind, body, spirit complex, resulting in the whole knowledge of the self in the microcosm and macrocosm. To the disciplined entity, all things are open and free. The discipline which opens the universes opens also the gateways to evolution. The difference is that of choosing either to hitchhike to a place where beauty may be seen or to walk, step by step, independent and free, in this independence to praise the strength to walk and the opportunity for the awareness of beauty. The hitchhiker, instead, is distracted by conversation and the vagaries of the road and, dependent upon the whims of others, is concerned to make the appointment in time. The hitchhiker sees the same beauty but has not prepared itself for the establishment, in the roots of mind, of the experience. Question 52.3. Questioner: I would ask this question in order to understand the mental disciplines and how they evolve. Does fourth, fifth, and sixth density positive or service to others orientation of social memory complexes use both the slingshot and the personality disciplines type of effect for travel, or do they use only one? Answer: I am Ra. The positively oriented social memory complex will be attempting to learn the disciplines of mind, body, and spirit. However, there are some which, having the technology available to use intelligent energy forces to accomplish travel, do so while learning the more appropriate disciplines. Question 52.4. Questioner: Then I am assuming that in the more positively oriented social memory complexes a much higher percentage of them use the personality disciplines for this travel. Is this correct? Answer: I am Ra. This is correct. As positive fifth density moves into sixth, there are virtually no entities which any longer use outer technology for travel or communication. Question 52.5. Questioner: Could you give me the same information on the negatively oriented social memory complexes as to the ratios and as to how they use the slingshot effect or the disciplines of the personality for travel? Answer: I am Ra. The fourth density negative uses the slingshot gravitic light effect, perhaps 80% of its membership being unable to master the disciplines necessary for alternate methods of travel. In fifth density negative, approximately 50% at some point gain the necessary discipline to use thought to accomplish travel. As the sixth density approaches, the negative orientation is thrown into confusion and little travel is attempted. What travel is done is perhaps 73% of light thought. Question 52.6. Questioner: is there any difference close to the end of fifth density in the disciplines of personality between positive and negative orientation? Answer: I am Ra. There are patent differences between the polarities, but no difference whatsoever in the completion of the knowledge of the self necessary to accomplish this discipline. Question 52.7. Questioner: am I correct, then, in assuming that discipline of the personality, knowledge of self, and control in strengthening of the will would be what any fifth density entity would see as those things of importance? Answer: I am Ra. In actuality, these things are of importance in third through early seventh densities. The only correction in nuance that we would make is your use of the word control. It is paramount that it be understood that it is not desirable or helpful to the growth of the understanding, may we say, of an entity by itself to control thought processes or impulses except where they may result in actions not consonant with the law of one. Control may seem to be a shortcut to discipline, peace, and illumination. However, this very control potentiates and necessitates the further incarnative experience in order to balance this control or repression of that self which is perfect. Instead, we appreciate and recommend the use of your second verb in regard to the use of the will. Acceptance of self, forgiveness of self, and the direction of the will, this is the path towards the disciplined personality. Your faculty of will is that which is powerful within you as co-creator. You cannot ascribe to this faculty too much importance. Thus it must be carefully used and directed in service to others for those upon the positively oriented path. There is great danger in the use of the will as the personality becomes stronger, for it may be used even subconsciously in ways reducing the polarity of the entity. Question 52.8. Questioner: I sense, possibly, a connection between what you just said and why so many wanderers have selected the harvest time on this planet to incarnate. Am I correct? Answer: I am Ra. It is correct that in the chance to remember that which has been lost in the forgetting there is an immunity of opportunity for positive polarization. We believe this is the specific thrust of your query. Please ask further if it is not. Question 52.9. Questioner: I would just include the question as to why the time of harvest is selected by so many wanderers as time for incarnation. Answer: I am Ra. There are several reasons for incarnation during harvest. They may be divided by the terms self and other self. The overriding reason for the offering of these brothers and sisters of sorrow in incarnative states is the possibility of aiding other selves by the lightening of the planetary consciousness distortions and the probability of offering catalyst to other selves which will increase the harvest. There are two other reasons for choosing this service which have to do with the self. The wanderer, if it remembers and dedicates itself to service, will polarize much more rapidly than is possible in the far more elated realms of higher density catalyst. The final reason is within the mind, body, spirit totality or the social memory complex totality, which may judge that an entity or members of a societal entity can make use of third density catalyst to recapitulate a learning teaching which is adjudged to be less than perfect. This especially applies to those entering into and proceeding through sixth density, wherein the balance between compassion and wisdom is perfected. Question 52.10. Questioner: thank you. Just as something that I am a little inquisitive about, but which is not of much importance, I would like to make a statement which I intuitively hunch. I may be wrong. You were speaking of the slingshot effect, and that term has puzzled me. The only thing that I can see is that you must put energy into a craft until it approaches the velocity of light, and this of course requires more and more energy. The time dilation occurs, and it seems to me that it would be possible to, by moving at 90 degrees to the direction of travel, somehow change this stored energy in its application of direction or sense, so that you move out of space-time into time-space with a 90 degrees deflection. Then the energy would be taken out in time-space and you would re-enter space-time at the end of this energy burst. Am I in any way correct on this? Answer: I am Ra. You are quite correct as far as your language may take you, and, due to your training, more able than we to express the concept. Our only correction, if you will, would be to suggest that the 90 degrees of which you speak are an angle which may best be understood as a portion of a tesseract. Question 52.11. Questioner: thank you. Just a little point that was bothering me, of no real importance. Is there then, from the point of view of an individual who wishes to follow the service to others path, anything of importance other than disciplines of personality, knowledge of self, and strengthening of will? Answer: I am Ra. This is technique. This is not the heart. Let us examine the heart of evolution. Let us remember that we are all one. This is the great learning teaching. In this unity lies love. This is a great learn teaching. In this unity lies light. This is the fundamental teaching of all planes of existence in materialization. Unity, love, light, and joy, this is the heart of evolution of the spirit. The second ranking lessons are learned, taught in meditation and in service. At some point the mind, body, spirit complex is so smoothly activated and balanced by these central thoughts or distortions that the techniques you have mentioned become quite significant. However, the universe, its mystery unbroken, is one. Always begin and end in the Creator, not in technique. Question 52.12. Questioner: in the previous session you mentioned the light bringers from the octave. Am I to understand that those who provide the light for the graduation are of an octave above the one we experience? Could you tell me more about these light bringers, who they are, etc.? Answer: I am Ra. This will be the last full query of this working. This octave density of which we have spoken is both Omega and Alpha. The spiritual mass of the infinite universe is becoming one central sun or creator once again. Then is born a new universe, a new infinity, a new logos which incorporates all that the Creator has experienced of itself. In this new octave they are also those who wander. We know very little across the boundary of octave except that these beings come to aid our octave in its logos completion. Is there any brief query which you have at this time? Question 52.13. Questioner: only is there anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact? Answer: I am Ra. This instrument has some distortion in the area of the lungs which has been well compensated for by the position of the physical complex. All is well. We leave you, my friends, in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai.